There we go. Here he is. Can we have a giant virtual round of applause for Felix? Felix, thanks so much for taking time to hang out with us today. I know that yesterday was a big day for you guys, right? I saw you had some posts up. There's like big crew, big set, green screens and everything. Can you let us know what you're up to?
Yeah. I guess basically the overriding problem of making music is that it's like an audio form. It's a non-visual form. So we feel like we have to make something visual to accompany every piece of music we put out, which means we have to shoot a video of such, or like an animation, a traditional music video. I guess the difficulty for us is that our budgets don't really allow us to do like a traditional narrative music video with actors and proper large film crews, etc. And I think you do have to spend money, like significant amounts of money, to make those narrative music videos look good. Otherwise, you can sort of tell that it's amateur and people don't really want to be part of it. So what we've always decided to do, at least like across the last album and now, is to try and sell the fact that we're a band. That should work in our advantage. So we want people to come to our shows. We love playing with each other. That's like the main reason we do it, like almost more than releasing the music. So it was like, well, let's just try and capture that, and that can be the visual representation of our music. Like, and then there's artwork and there's these other things.
Right.
But in terms of like a way to market the music instantly and get it in front of people and make them connect to it,
yeah,
we've always felt like this is the most efficient and the most interesting way to do it. So we've got 2 more tracks due to come out. Actually, that's a lie. We have 3 more, but one's coming out tonight. And then we have 2 more tracks to come out on this EP, and we were shooting the music videos for both of those.
Okay, and so you did 2 in one day?
We did 2 in one day, which we always do, but it's absolutely nuts. Like, the days are mental, and it's like 2 weeks of planning to make sure that things go as smoothly as possible. And then halfway through the day, the camera breaks, or your interface catches on fire, and you lose 2 hours or something.
Right.
And it's always like a bit of a struggle, but we're 90% happy every time. So.
Okay, so but hang on, Felix. All that's happening is that you guys are playing one song live, and a song is like 3 to 5 minutes long. Surely it can't take that long.
Yeah, yeah, you think so. So, like, yeah, for example, yesterday, there's a few things. One is like, the more people involved, the longer everything takes. So, if you can do it just with one other person, awesome. But that gets pretty hard when you go to certain spaces. So, there's the 4 of us in the band, and then there's a mate that helps us with like capturing all the audio from all of that, so we don't have to worry too much about that on the day. Then there's a team of people around the camera, because apparently it takes more than one person to operate a camera at that level. And then there's what are called like grips, gaffers, sparkies, which are basically people in charge of putting lights up so that you can see something. And
small details, right?
They've got up like big ladders and all that stuff. That you've lost 3 hours already in your day. So I think we had like 3.5 hours to actually film the stuff. And by the time you've rehearsed with the camera, I think we had 2 takes of one song and 3 takes of another song.
Okay.
And that's
just
like the best.
Just to make it clear for people, we might think if it's like, oh, we're making a music video, traditionally we think like, oh, you just use the record, but you guys record the live performance and you're playing the song. But it's a fresh take. It's an actual recording of audio, not just miming.
Yeah, sorry, I keep interrupting. We have this like pet peeve, which is that we can't bring ourselves to like mime. Essentially, it's just too much. Like for people that like are really married to the idea of like being a musician, it like that would be too pop for us at this stage. I'm not saying we'll never get there, but like at the moment, that's too much. So for us, it's like fresh take, but again, it's the same people. It's actually even the same drums. It's the same vocalist. It's exactly the same instruments. It's the same producer, Jamie. So it comes out like 99% sounding similar, which is enough. But it's enough different that people who are fans of it, hopefully, like I don't know, they get something fresh.
Yeah, we're kind of unpacking that a little bit with Carlos when we chatted with him, because it was like you can watch one of your videos and it's like, oh, it sounds like the record, and then you realize it's not, which is kind of nuts. And you know, I'm looking forward to talking with Jamie about that whole process as well, of that kind of like the seamless thing that you guys have between studio and stage. But I mean, in terms of like your work as a director, then you're talking about all this 2 weeks of planning, like, does that additionally complicate it because you've just got so many more variables that you need to account for and get everything right before you can play?
Yeah, I guess like for us, because we're, you know, an indie, like everyone on this channel probably, you know, there's no like bank behind us. So it starts off with, what's the budget? It's like very much the first question. It's like, how much can we afford to spend on this? And given that, like, what is a suitable idea that's like adventurous enough that we feel like we're stretching ourselves, but also is obtainable to a degree, or if on the day it's just like, guys, this is ridiculous. Like, does Carlos have to be upside down? Like, we can just backpedal from that, and we've still got something that's good.
Cool. I love it. Okay, we got a question here from Zach, just saying how many takes do you do per track, or do you compile the best shots, or do it as one take?
We do one takes because then you don't have to pay for an editor. And
Smart.
also, I think like there's something about seeing a video that's chopped up loads, which like is disconnecting. Like I almost can't, it doesn't hold my attention. I don't believe it, or it seems like it's fantastical in a way. Whereas we're so used to watching videos of people filming them on their phones, which is like a continuous thing, and more like real life, in real lifestyle. That certainly, like, I feel that a one take, if you can get it right, is just more engaging.
Love it. And so, I mean, the big question now is like, you're not just directing on the day, you're not just setting it all up, but you spent 2 weeks preparing for it, you spent God knows how long making the record, you've probably woken up super early, loaded up a van, moved everything in, I'm assuming you're like monitoring what every single person on the crew is doing, and now it's like, okay, play music. So how do you transition yourself from high level overview, running the checklists, kind of boss Felix, to musician Felix?
The drums is definitely the last thing I think about, but it's worth saying that, like, we're so lucky that we're a band. Like, in many ways, you're really unlucky because it looks like, you know, it's easily perceived that in today's day and age, it's an easier ride for solo artists. But, like, as a band, there's 4 of you to pull your weight, and, you know, everyone really does, to a massive degree, and on the day we all have very specific roles to make sure that we can get it done. But definitely, like, playing the drums is the least of my concerns. And actually, like, really, I certainly am in a position now where drums is just like muscle memory. So I don't worry about it. It's all to a click, so I don't have to worry about the tempos, which is the main problem for a drummer. And like, even on gigs and stuff, literally the last thing I think about is, I don't think about playing the drums until the click comes in before the first tune.
Amazing.
Because it's just too much otherwise. Like, I almost can't be dealing with the headspace of like worrying about all those things.
Okay. Now, I guess
it's bad for it's Carlos who's really in the firing line on gigs. Like, I'm just playing the drums. Like, it's fun.
Right. Why is he in the firing line?
For a hobby.
Right. You know? Why is Carlos in the firing line, would you say?
Because, you know, he's the front man and he's the one who has to sing and sell the songs, and like, you know, if we're being honest, 70% of people in the audience are probably looking at him.
Okay, cool. I'm with you. But just as like a tangent, it's not like you just kind of started playing drums a couple of years ago and you've been figuring it out, but you've been like pretty heavy duty on music from a young age, right?
Yeah.
So you have like a pretty big pool of experience to call on, and like you say, it's muscle memory, second nature by now.
Yeah, I guess like everyone in the band's come at music from different angles. Like Carlos, Jamie, and Jacob used to play in another band like since they were 12 or something, and that was always like their world of writing original music. they'd all be like writing music and producing music and being in a band, which is like a very specific thing actually. And I did the opposite thing. I left school and I was like playing in the National Youth Jazz Orchestra. I was like really wanted to be like a session musician.
Right.
I went to music college, and then like I went and moved to Brazil and lived there for a bit studying percussion.
Whoa.
And I've just done like loads of touring with different artists, being a sideman. And eventually that wears pretty thin eventually, because once you've ticked off that little bucket list thing, you're not getting any of the satisfaction of it being your own project. You're like constantly just supporting someone else's thing. And also, a week later they could just fire you and then you're stuck.
Yeah, fair enough, man. We got another couple of questions in here. So Shane was just asking, like on the videos, do you deviate much from the album arrangement?
Like occasionally, the like massive issue with, I think, like music making in general now, certainly for people that play live, is that you don't really have ownership of the music until you've started playing live. Like, we don't actually know how the music feels in front of people. We don't know the energy of it until you've played it like 50 times in front of an audience. But paradoxically, you recorded the master a year before then, so everything's happening in the wrong order. Our arrangements change immensely like a year after release, but we've had to record the videos before then. So, certain things might happen, and certainly, like as a drummer, you can let rip a lot more live than you can on a studio recording.
Nice. So things evolve, but in general, like the early ones are closer to, or the videos are closer to the record kind of thing.
Definitely, that's definitely true.
Cool. All right, and then Maria is asking, how do you move the camera around? One person walking with a gimbal or something?
Yeah, so the way we started, certainly on the last campaign, is we bought like a £150 gimbal off Amazon, which, by the way, do you guys know about Scamazon? This is like, maybe this is like an image.
Or is it where you buy something and then return it without it being in the box?
Like we can't always afford to buy this stuff, so you buy it, you use it,
right.
Use it for the shoot, use it for 2 weeks, and then you return it. Like, just don't damage it. It doesn't go back into circulation anyway. It just goes into some sort of, I don't know, depot somewhere. Mm. So, we had, I think, like £500 to shoot all the videos for the last album campaign.
Whoa.
So we spent 150 quid, which we then got back on a gimbal. And then we gave the rest to our mate Ben, who had like an SLR. And he just learnt the ethically dubious, yes. But it's Amazon, so I don't think
exactly.
And then we gave the rest to him, and he came and like lived with us for sort of like 6-7 days, and we'd shoot stuff on every day. And one camera, it could even be an iPhone, to be honest. It's more about what's in the shot than the technology, like massively. Is everyone looking like they're having a good time or not having a good time, depending on what you want to, the impression you want to give out? And is it like really musical? Does the guy catch the moments?
Great. And was that all the stuff that you guys did at the studio in France then?
Yeah.
That batch of shooting?
So, exactly. That's not a studio. That's like a mate's family's place, which cool. During the pandemic they had left, and we went to for a couple of weeks, and it just had this massive stone room, and so that's really where you spend most of your money, is getting a venue. So if you can find a venue for free or for cheap. Yeah.
Nice. And you had this idea that instead of everyone being in a row, you could put everyone in a circle, which became like quite an iconic thing for you guys. And once you got out there with Ben, like, did you already have that idea in mind, or were you just like, we got to shoot something and we got to figure it out? And did you spend a bit of time trying to just figure out the best setup and stumble on that? Or
I copied the idea from a video that I saw of this artist called Tom Misch, who's like music I'm not particularly enamored with, but I really liked the video.
Yeah.
But the video had them spread out quite far in the space. But they had this sort of central light box, which we tried to copy with like really cheap Chinese LEDs. which you could get off eBay, you know, for like really next to nothing. And then all we did is just bring everyone in. We couldn't afford a smoke machine, so we used that's why there's like little bits of incense in there to just like try and get something in the air.
Yeah.
Plus, you know, 4 guys gets pretty stinky, so we made it work in our own terms.
Great, nice. And then you mentioned, well, actually, before you came on, you said like you have like your drum recording set up. So I guess if you went into a house, you must have lugged all the gear out, lugged all your instruments, recording stuff to make that happen too.
Yeah, we're now at a stage where we've accrued just like so much stuff from 5-6 years of 5 years of this band, and then everyone's lives before then. That you know, we have a whole studio's amount of equipment, and now some like certain things that help us film just save us a bit of cash, to be honest.
Great, nice. And are you pretty kind of? Do you have a whole like a bit of a system for rolling it out? Like we've seen the kind of the black box that tends to be set up in the middle of you with like all the cables running into it. But even on like the filming side, do you have like the routine and everything down?
Yeah, yes. I mean, I would have to hand that question over to Jamie, really, who's the mastermind of all of that. But you know, we have our like brain that's just got 2 pretty cheap interfaces in it, to be honest, and that's our live brain. But it's really easily converted into just recording audio as well.
Cool, nice. Now I got to know, you guys you're starting to get up on tours again as well. So as like someone who's overall thinking visually for the band, do you then cross over into like figuring out whatever degree of lighting design you can do for shows? Have you built out anything that you carry with you to give you a bit more control in the venues you're in?
We have done that in the past, you know. Like we used to bring like like desk lamp fixtures and attach them to everything. I think because we went to see Fortet play at Brixton Academy once, and he did the whole thing just under a desk lamp. And we were like, this is cool, it's so dark. Everyone feels really safe and able to do whatever they want. So we did that for a bit, and we had this mad system that Jamie designs, whereby, you know, MIDI would be spat out from the computer, and that would automate all the lights and all this rubbish. But we didn't do that on our last tour. I think because just like the idea of the headache of it was too much for everyone. Yeah. But for our big shows, you know, we've got like our good friends that collaborate on the videos will come and do us a solid and give us some power.
Great, that's dope, nice.
But we're not. It would be ridiculous at our level, just financially, regardless to anything else, to like rock up to a 200 capacity venue with like a cart full of lights. I mean, you'd blind everyone, and B, you'd like spend your entire fee on lighting. Yeah,
fair enough, man. That makes sense. Cool. Well, can we do a bit of an origin story? Like, have you always been shooting stuff, filming stuff? Have you always had a visual side, or has it been more as a band kicked off, you're like, we're gonna need to think about this, and you kind of stepped into that role a bit more?
Yeah, I've always had theatre stuff around me. I'm the youngest kid of 7, and everyone in my family has been involved in the arts. Some of them are actors. One of them's in music as well. Some of the other people like have worked in stage design and costume and stuff like that. So I've always like had touchstones with various bits of the arts, mainly in theatre. And like when I was a kid, I was really, you know, like I think like lots of kids are, you put on plays and all that stuff. And that just sort of stayed with me a little bit, but I was definitely interested in the technical side of things, in terms of like the way stuff was lit, or the way the aesthetics of how pieces would come across. I wasn't that into like narrative ideas. Like Carlos is a real bookworm, for example. Like he's really into like the narrative and the voice of pieces, but I'm like more into the way things look. I don't know why, that's just like the way my brain is configured. And then like a band is a great excuse to flex some of those muscles, not least because you have to. Like there's no other way to make it work than everyone doing as much as they can. Like with some, and you know, initially right at the beginning, we were spending money on music videos, and we'd spend so much money, and it would get like 15,000 views, and it was just like money down the drain essentially. We'd have a good time, but we'd all be knackered and broke. And then we made this video called When You Wake at Night, which was a song off an old EP. And it was like, I just had this idea, and we all, like, generally speaking, and this is true for music as well, you have an idea, you bring it to the group, and then it gets finessed. And I had this idea, which was actually based around like what I thought was achievable logistically. So my idea was, well, we definitely can't afford like what's called a dolly, which is where you slide a camera along the ground that looks really smooth. But what if I just sat out the boot of Jamie's car and I held the camera, and like we could drive really fast, and I could speed it up even if I wanted it to go faster. So you can find it on YouTube. And the idea was pretty simple, that we'd shoot at sunrise or sunset so we could get some nice light, and it would almost be like a sort of dream sequence.
What was the track called, man? I'll see if I can pull it up while we're chatting.
When You Wake at Night.
When You Wake, okay.
Yeah, it would be fun to show everyone. The idea would be that Carlos is running up the road and the car is in front, and Carlos would be constantly trying to catch up with the car, and we'd be driving further and further away, and he'd be having to run faster and faster and faster. And as he's running, he's given different activities. We had like live and Carlos's brother chucking stuff out the windows or whatever for Carlos to do. And then at the end, we sort of strapped him to the boot with his head out the back, and Jamie went as fast as he could, and we shot it at half speed and then double sped it up in post. And it just looked absolutely mental. But that was like really empowering for us, because okay, we managed. Yeah. So that's the end there.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes me laugh every time. But it was like empowering, because it was like, okay, we can do stuff ourselves. You don't need. That was shot on like £100 camera.
Amazing.
And edited in iMovie. You don't have to spend loads of cash. And so Searchbox is another example of that, another tune where that's just shot on an iPhone. Another video.
And I love what you were saying before, where you're just really saying it's what's in the shot is what's way more important than what cameras you have. And so was this video in a way like the point where you realized that, or the proof of concept more to the point?
Yeah, yes. There's this like annoying thing that happens where you want to upscale. Like you want to, how do you get it to the next level? Well, you probably get like someone who's a more experienced camera operator, and that means that if they're going to be involved, then they need X sort of camera. And every time you do that, like I think thinking about the last shoot, every time you do that, you eat into how much time you have to actually think about the concept on the day. So like yesterday, 2 music videos shot in 3.5 hours. Like that's really difficult, because you're losing time to think about the actual stuff in the frame the whole time. So it's like a trade-off. Ideally, you keep the amount of time you had, and you upscale the technical aspect as well. And I don't think we're quite at that balance yet, but I think we'll get there.
Okay. Oh, awesome. Great. So listen, Zach is asking, he's having this exact dilemma now, like when is the cost worth it? He's worried about doing all this work, then it gets like 7 views. So you mentioned that you guys had a real like sit down and decided like what you could afford. So do you have a way that you actually assess like how much you're willing to put on the line for this kind of stuff?
Yeah. There's like no clear answer to that. That's the sort of thing that keeps me up at night, because I know for a fact that if we made a video for £100 and we spent the rest of the budget marketing it to get it in front of people, it would get us more fans, but like it wouldn't age well. Like in 3 years' time, we'll look back and be like, that's crap. Like that's a crap piece of work. So that would be too depressing. So I think like you have to make something good for as little as you can, and then try and get eyes on it. There are definitely ways to help get eyes on your videos. But I think it's really important to remember that it's like a long game thing. And like, the last video we put out, for example, I was like, oh my God, all that effort, and it's had like X amount of views or whatever. And then, a couple of weeks later, things start to move a bit more. And you should think that about your music as well. Like when you release music and you're looking at like, oh, did it get on X and X playlist, or how many streams did it get on the first day? Like it's not about that. It's all about finding excuses to keep talking about your music for the next 2 months, so that you're giving people that huge window to get involved. And that's definitely true with videos. Like people will come across stuff. And then the other thing I'd say is like the power of the thumbnail. Like I'm only just understanding that actually, like, especially we're talking about YouTube and things like that, just get a fucking amazing thumbnail. Like whatever you do, even if it's a picture or even it's something you've designed that's completely different. When people are scrolling, it's like attention economy. You just need the brightest thing you can find that's going to capture someone's, like, it's almost like it's almost like flowers making themselves really bright so they get pollinated. You just like want to draw someone in to click on your video.
Yeah, that's awesome. So was there like a point when you consciously started embracing that? And by the way, like the everything before thumbnail looks epic. It really does.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That was like, that's not a still from the video. That's like I've taken a still and then I've made it in Photoshop to look like that.
Okay, let me pull this up for everyone to see that as well.
Yeah, like don't feel like that's cheating or anything. This whole thing is a game. Like the whole music industry is a game.
A game like, tell us more about that. Okay, here we go. Here's the thumbnail, everyone, for everything before us. So do you mean you treat it as a game, like you look at points and you got some, different dashboards and you tweak dials and see what the result is?
I mean, to a certain extent, I definitely do that with like digital marketing stuff. But like for us, it's like do the music, make the music for yourself because you bloody love it, and then once you've got the music in the can, then like what's the best way to get it in front of people? That's the game. And supposedly certain companies know how to do that better than others. Major labels would claim to be able to do that better than other labels, etc. But all it really is they have more money, to pay for marketing. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. You can do the same things. You can do all the same things. You can use the same companies they use if you want. Mm-hmm. You just don't have as much money to throw at things. Right.
Nice. So do you find, are you able to, I don't know if able is the right word, but do you have quite a different headspace on when you guys are making the music, when you're making records, when you're actually playing the shows compared to the rest of the time? Or does it feel like quite a natural kind of a yin yang for you? Do you know what I mean? Is it like siloed? Yeah. Are they totally compartmentalized or are they all mixed in together?
It's definitely different for everyone in the band, like in terms of their relationship to the project. I guess because I don't write the lyrics or anything, the songs aren't as intrinsically linked to my personality as they would be to Jamie or Carlos. So, I love playing the drums. I would enjoy playing the drums to anyone's music, but on my own, no one can tell me off. So that's awesome. I can just do what I want. So the shows I enjoy for doing that, and I enjoy because I'm, with my 4 best mates, and that's immense fun. And then the rest of it is like, it's like a puzzle. And I luckily get a bit of a tick out of like trying to crack that puzzle of like, how do we get this in front of people?
And you're also like, you co-run the band's label with Jacob, right? So I guess, does this help you have like a really good way to think about these other issues that you've been sharing with us? Or not issues, other considerations, we should say, other factors is probably more fair.
Yeah, like it's a mistake to think. I've sort of come to the conclusion that it's a mistake to think of all these roles in the music industry as being different things. Mm-hmm. Like it's only like that in major corporations where people don't have the bandwidth. But like, why would you separate, for example, the recording of your music from the writing of your music? Like none of you do, right? You write and produce and record your music all at the same time. that used to be 3 different jobs, and half of you guys and girls probably release your music as well, right? So you're also the labels and the marketeers, and I don't think there's any problem with being all those things, and I don't think actually that they're like in opposition to each other. The way our label works is like we have a distributor who does some work. They don't take care of any marketing, but they make sure it gets on all the DSPs. They do digital, and then we also have a physical distributor. And I handle the sort of back end, the technical back end of all those things. And Carlos deals with the conversations between people. He's like definitely the best salesman for the band. And people respond to that. Like, you meet people and at first they're like, oh my God, you're the singer and you're the manager. That's a bit weird. And then they're relieved because they've never actually got to have a conversation with someone who's anything to do with music. And, luckily Carlos is immensely articulate. So it's like, why would you want anyone else to try and communicate your vision?
Love it. And for yourself, like, you're saying that you came up really just focused on drums, you're just playing in everyone else's band. Like, do you find just like life more interesting, more nuanced? There's a lot more to sink your teeth into now because you've got all these different things that you're thinking about?
The thing is that like, if you're a drummer or just a producer, it's not like those are a limited sphere. The deeper you go into something, the larger it feels.
Yeah, totally.
Like just if I, think of like, all the traditions and languages and genres of percussion music. Like, you could never cover them in your entire lifetime. You could never like get into all these different countries' music. So like, it's too much. And like, you have to be okay with that. So it's as expansive if you decide to take a little piece from different areas, but it's fun, like I'm sure for everyone, like the main reason everyone's doing it is because it's fun and it's a good way to spend your time. When you were talking about wealth earlier, I was like, yeah, 100%. It's about, how you spend your days is how you spend your life. Like, you want to have as good a time as possible.
Love it, man. I love it. Cool. Well, listen, could I ask, like, if we have a lot of people in here who are like making tracks. Zach, we've been chatting with, has like been going through the whole, learning how to make visuals. I think like when we were talking with Liv on a chat recently, she was saying they'd experimented with a couple of stuff but hadn't really hit a formula. So, if you're sitting down with a musician who is like, okay, all the music's great, I really need to like get my brain around like building, I'm gonna say like a combination, not just a visual strategy, but obviously you're thinking about where the visuals are going as well, right? So yeah. If it was you're kind of like sitting down with a friend at a pub, like going, okay, look, you need to think about these, however many things. What do you think those things might be? I know that's a bit of a broad question.
Yeah. So it's not like I do this for a job, so I don't really know how you'd approach like a third party to have that discussion with them. But like, if I think about how you approach someone, if they want you to produce their track, or if they want you to play music on your track, it's play drums on their track. It's more like, what are the references that you like first, because that's at least some touchstones, and they might be like completely in opposition. They might be like, well, I love EDM, but I also love acoustic folk. And that opposition can be really interesting. And then visually it might be like, I love these films. And then the other question that we ask ourselves is like, what do we enjoy doing the most, because we're gonna cringe out the least to things that we like. Okay. Like, we like playing music together. We don't like miming to camera. So that's like a big no-no for us, and it's an easy way to do it. We love films and we want to be able to do that. So is there a way to make your live videos also have like a filmic quality, whether that's like the way you shoot it or trying to like give them a little bit of narrative with the camera? What's the marrying of those two things? That's certainly the way like we would approach videos. When it comes to artwork, I think that's like really difficult, because like artwork is definitely artwork, and like the photos of you are such a big part of your identity, but they have such a small footprint. Like, where does artwork actually appear nowadays? It appears in just like the smallest little thumbnail on Bandcamp or on Spotify. It's like so tiny. The idea of spending thousands of pounds on artwork just seems like completely ridiculous. But you need something. So attention to detail, like what can you find that you really like that seems to marry with your art and that gives you something to talk about? Like I'm often like anti on the oppositional side to the rest of the guys in the band on artwork. I'm like, it doesn't matter because no one's going to see it and it's tiny. Let's just stick the text on some sort of like bright background. I don't care because I know that's not what we're going to use to market the record. And let's use a press photo as the cover of an album because that's what a solo artist would do. But all the other guys are like, hell no. And they're probably right. But I'm like, well, if we don't spend money on the artwork, then I can spend more money on the videos, and then the videos will look better. So that's probably why I'm deciding to do that. But Carlos and Live and Jamie are like always thinking like, what's the narrative? What can we talk about in this piece of artwork? So they're like scouring the web, or they're commissioning a photographer friend of theirs to make something that has like a meaningful connection. And people, in fairness, people come forwards and they're like, yeah, that's really interesting what you said about the artwork. I can see that, and they connect to it. So, attention to detail across the board is like really important. It's just that there's no way as one person I'd have the bandwidth. And I feel like sorry for people who are solo artists, because it's really hard to have the bandwidth to think about all these different aspects of your like sort of 360 campaign. Like all your artwork and your video, what's the story of the band? It's a lot of work. Yeah, grab a still from the video is a great idea, but the problem is for us that certainly the videos get shot so late in the day, like 2 weeks before something comes out.
Oh my God, there's a time lapse actually on the end of this one of you guys setting up. I didn't realize we had that there.
Yeah, so that's the softbox we made out of. Okay. I think each of those lamps was like $15.
Okay, we got to rewind here. But I love what you're saying. You're kind of also thinking like strategically about like where you deploy the resources of the band in different areas and what your returns could be. So you kind of got like the dials you have to balance in different areas to try to get the best results.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the number one thing I'd say is don't spend any money on PR. Like,
interesting.
That does nothing. Like what you get, like I feel like a lot of PR takes you so far away from people. Yeah. When I say PR, I mean like a PR company. Mm-hmm. Like no one really reads blogs. The way people are engaging with music is like how people are engaging on this stream right now, and how they're engaging on social media, and all that stuff is free. And TikTok, not that we do anything on there apart from repost stuff. We are constantly struggling on like, do we spend X amount of money on a radio plugger that may get you one single play or may get you a playlisting? Like it's a complete lottery. Mm-hmm. So all of that stuff should be seen as like a roll of the dice, I think.
So you got to kind of have that almost like speculative batch of money, and then like it's almost a little bit like your investment portfolio. What's kind of the more reliable return that might be a bit safer, and this one's a bit more out there.
It's like going to Vegas. You have to go in and be okay if you lose your money and don't get any return.
Can we circle back to there's something you were saying earlier, which I thought was really brilliant about thinking about the big picture and playing the long game with your releases as well, because we're at a point now where we can actually click around on your YouTube channel and see like a ton of different performance videos, a ton of different things. So there's like more and more of a story that's being built as you guys have made all this. So I mean, have you noticed, I'm guessing with like the work you do with the distributors and the label side, like have you seen moments where older things have suddenly had like a massive uptick, or you've noticed like a kind of a compounding effect as more things get released?
Yeah, occasionally, not on a level which is like, whoa, this track from X amount of years ago is suddenly completely kicking off. But
Right.
you know, the way that algorithmically everything works now, and especially something like Spotify works, you will, you know, a track, for example, this track that we put out called In Your Arms, which is like most of our favorite tracks, didn't get any support from Spotify editorially.
No way.
But people loved it.
Yeah.
And our fans were always saying, oh, yeah, I love this track. You know, they were telling us. And, you know, slowly but surely, that's now the second most listened to track because its popularity has grown. And now people are like, you know, people are getting recommended it every week in these algorithmic playlists. So I have like faith in the system, despite the fact that like there's enormous issues with the remuneration on those platforms. I think it's good that like popularity and engagement is rewarded. Like that seems justified.
Right. So you're seeing like stuff can just slow burn and keep building and building and building and building kind of thing.
Exactly. What you're aiming for is the like long over a couple of years ramp. It's definitely not like this massive initial spike and then plateau and then just disappear.
Right. Amazing. Cool. Hey, we had Zach in here is asking, do you guys use playlist sites like SubmitHub?
We have, like, on the first single of the album, we used SubmitHub and a French one called Groover. And we didn't do any blog stuff, we just did playlisting. But like, certainly for our genre of music, it just seems that the sort of footfall of those playlists is so small that it's not worth spending the money on. And also, you know, we all know that stuff is rife with like bots and illegal streams. So I just think it's pissing money away. Like the other day, I looked at some playlists that we'd set up between our bandmates, and there were just random tracks on there. And I clicked on the artist, and I found the artist, and it was this library music artist. And what it was they'd programmed a bot to take this track and put it on all the open playlists, like user playlists. Just add it to all the user playlists. It's a 1-minute track. Most people won't notice because they're playing music in the background, and they'll just harvest the money from streaming. So, I mean, it's a pretty good hack, but it's like at some stage that'll get shut down and they'll get kicked off the platform.
Wow, that's nuts. Okay.
And that's how I feel about like some of these playlisting sites, and certainly anyone that claims to like be able to get you on a playlist.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's funny. I experimented with running a label a couple of years ago, and remember going like, "Oh, this is amazing! We got a big fan base in Bangladesh," and then like realized it was a click farm. It was like, oh my god. Some Russian promo site or whatever. There's an interesting point in here from Hannah from Sapphire in the chat. She was saying, Hannah, what was it? Sorry, let me just move my windows around here. I always have visions that are too grand, and then the videos end up crappy. So you're kind of touching on that a little bit before, like trying to make sure that with the resources that you have, you can still deliver something that looks or feels good. So do you have could you shed any light more on how you think about that?
I'd say that $2,000 is a pretty good budget to make something decent, like to make something really decent.
Sorry, it's $2,000 TOO, like too big. Instead of like I have a $2,000.
Oh, sorry, gosh, it's two things. Fair enough. Search for those music videos online that have really simple, small concepts. Don't just like try and avoid going like if you see something that's grand, what is the thing about it that's making it attractive to you? Is it like shot in the desert? In which case, if you live in California, that's not going to cost you any money. Like you can get a Vista, that's free. Is it like what is it about the grandeur that you found exciting? Okay, if it turns out that it's because it's 2,000 ninjas fighting, maybe you can't like recreate that. But if it turns out that the grandeur is because it's some like really famous actor weeping with this amazing vista, and the music is also grand, like there's a way to take the essence of that and the narrative of that, and just like slim it way down, and you won't actually lose anything. And then the other thing is like make the most of your limitations. If you can only afford like a crappy camera, don't try and make it look like an expensive camera. Like your Paranormal Activity or whatever, that film is shot on a Super 8. Like you just lean into it. And yeah, I don't know. Don't feel like the reason that something's connecting is because it's grand. Like I don't think that's true.
Love it. Okay, cool. So you got a pretty good instinct at this point about like, I mean, when you're talking about like the idea of using the car or whatever, you kind of, do you find that like once you have a concept for here's a way to make something with what we have, then does that spark a whole bunch of ideas about how to evolve on that kind of thing, as opposed to just being like, well, I want to parachute out of the back of a Hercules troop carrier and
exactly. I mean, look, so Jamie is exactly the same as Sapphire, has these like really grand ideas, like amazing ideas that would just like one day will be so great, and we pocket them, we put them in the book, and we use them for pitches when we can hopefully pitch to someone else to supply the cash. But like I tend to start with like some sort of technical thing that I've seen that's achievable, and we have like websites in the UK, Fat Llama is one, where you can rent film equipment off just random people, and it's really cheap. So I have this other idea, which is it's called a crane and a jib, and in the film world that's like super expensive. And it's this massive arm, and you stick a camera on the end and you can fly it round above crowds. But they make these miniature versions out of plastic that are like 2 meters probably wide, and you can attach a camera to one end and the person can move it round and it follows them, and you could go really fast. Like you know, and that's going to cost you like $50 to hire for a day. You can set the focus, you can spend another $50 renting a camera, and then just spend the rest of the time trying to make your shot look as good as possible, and then finesse it with things that you think are like narrative or it's more singular to you, or add something that's like turning it not just into like sort of proof of concept of this mode of filming, but becomes like more part of the story of your music.
Amazing. So the kind of finessing thing, can we get into some details? Like if you're setting up a shoot or something like that, what do you need to do to make sure you're actually capturing what you want?
You either yourself need to learn how to use a camera, because then that's the quickest way of definitely capturing what you want, or you just need to like communicate really clearly to someone, and to find someone who's not difficult to work with. Like we're over 5 years, we now have our team of like people who are really close friends now, and they just understand and they just get it, and no one ever says something that's a bit Jobsworth, like, oh no, sorry, you're 5 minutes over, I'm gonna charge you for that, or no one ever says no. Basically, they're just like, okay, yeah, let's try it. And they're not going to say anything weird to anyone, freak anyone out. They're just like straightforward people. And then you can communicate to each other, and you can like pretty easily have a dialogue to get what you want. In terms of what makes shots look good, it's almost never the camera. It's almost always like the lighting. Like it's how stuff is lit. And what's called production design, which is like what colors are basically in the shot, what colors are people wearing.
Super nerdy, but you remember your light box, right? You're saying you put the cheap LEDs in there. I had this nightmare in this studio for like, I had to run a really weird ass shutter rate, like super slow shutter rate on my camera, because my whole wall was like stripy as hell. At an appropriate shot. I think I was running like a 15 frame per second, or 15 like shutter speed of 15 or something like that, where it should have been 100.
Well, look, you see it in that video just there.
Yeah.
That, by the way, incidentally, that video is shot. This is interesting. So this video is shot by a production company that we employed. This was the first time we didn't use people that we normally used, because we were like, we're on tour. Let's try and get some other people in who we're paying a lot of money to, and you can trust them to do a good job. But then you look at it and you're like, hang on, their shutter rates on the cameras are set wrong. Like, why are we fucking paying these people?
Wow.
So
that's not an effect. I thought it was like a.
That's not an effect.
Oh my
that's
God.
a balls up.
Oh whoa! No way. So I thought that was like a really expensive lighting rig.
No. So there's desk lamps there.
Okay.
And then in the back there's like 3 really bright sort of LED sky panels that we hired. And you can see that some of the cameras are set on the correct shutter speed, and some of the cameras aren't. The ones which are flickering.
Wow.
Have the like shutter thing.
Nuts. So you must have been stoked when you saw that back.
Oh yeah, awesome. But you know, of course, to 99% of people don't notice.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's important to remember, because we all, like with our music as well, we like prey on all the details, like the tuning of the vocal, and actually for a lot of people, it's neither here nor there.
Okay, so there's probably a wonderful philosophical moment, like. How do you know when something is done? How can you kind of say like, okay, well, this is the best we can do with what we got. Let's put it out versus, you know what, we're completely independent. No one's set a deadline on us except for us. We can just roll this out and keep tweaking.
There is only ever one video which we made all the way through, watched it, and then looked at each other and were like, we can't put this out. So, you know, and there's definitely ones which aren't like 100% confidence from everyone, but they're most of the way there. And my girlfriend works in film, and she's a movement director and something called an intimacy coordinator, and she's always like, you did it, you shot it, that was the best you could do in the time that you had with the money that you had. Like, just be happy with it and move on. Like, next time, correct those little niggles that are in your head. You know, 99% of the people are gonna love it, and learn from it. And I'm sure like massive directors watch their films and cringe out at stuff all the time.
So do you just go, fuck it and put it out, or do you keep tweaking, or you know what I mean? I guess like you said you had that great thing where you shoot stuff as one take, so you can't edit, so you're not wasting time in the edit, so to speak.
Yeah.
But was that like a tricky thing to get around? And I'm talking like as a musician as well as a director and a visuals person now, like with the whole kind of 360 of everything. Well,
audio wise, apart from the drums, although you can do like sample replace stuff, pretty much everything is fixable, is fair to say nowadays with audio. But the visual is really hard to fix. So do your takes and choose the best one visually, and then sort out the audio afterwards if you need to make any edits. And you know, like, what can we really tweak? I can tweak the grade. I can maybe do some sort of like post effects if I think it needs some more dynamic. But there's not a lot you can change in a one take, which is like good and bad. The great thing is that you then don't enter into 2 weeks of choices.
Right.
Like, their choices have been made. Okay, everyone move on. And actually everyone's like, once they get over, they're like, oh, I look a bit silly for half a second or something. Then, you know, we all cringe out at ourselves. Everyone hates hearing themselves sing or hearing their own voice.
Yeah.
So once you get over that, then you're like pretty happy. You look back at it 2 weeks later and you're like, oh, actually, that was kind of cool.
Did you or do you get it cringy about stuff? Like, it all looks pretty cool from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, I mean, look, you could do anything and be and definitely be cringed out about it, I think, to a certain extent, because everyone's faking it. We're all sort of faking it, aren't we? Like, to a degree. Like, we're having a good time, but if they're using the 10th take of something, then no one's having a good time anymore. They're just pretending they're having a good time, which is half of it. Like, I remember touring with some American musicians, and like, American musicians are notorious, like, if to the English, for like making it look like they have a good time on stage, certainly. And this jazz drummer was saying to me, yeah, man, you gotta earn the right to be on stage. Like, you can't, it's not enough to just like go and play your instrument. like earn your right by being entertaining in a way, which, like, as an English cynical person, I find like totally insufferable and impossible to do. But to a certain extent, like, you try, you like sit down at the drums, you're like, okay, first time, this is fun, you are enjoying yourself, forget about the fact that like you've just done this 10 times and ballsed up that one moment over and over again. Like, try again, as if it was your first as if it was your first go. And I think it's the reason that like lots of like great artists and musicians have also been good actors in the past, like, because a lot of it sort of is acting, I think.
That's such an interesting
Certainly
point.
like your persona online is like is sort of fake, right? You're not giving 100% of yourself, you're just trying to give the bits that you're happy enough to give away. Like, you don't want to give everything away, or why would I want to tell everyone my darkest secrets?
Well, the obvious question now is, what is your darkest secret, Felix? Like, oh man, I love it. That's so fascinating. Okay, so listen, I mean, we've kept you here for about an hour. I feel like there's so much solid gold in this, Felix. We could kind of unpack so many aspects we got into infinitely. But everyone, like, let's get really focused. Like, I think this is such a rare opportunity to have someone who is so actively engaged in these different areas of making and releasing music. So do we have any other questions before we have to run?
Yeah, if there's anything really like technical that you want to ask, that's fine as well. It doesn't have to be like holistic stuff. If like you don't know how to do X, Y, and Z to do with getting your music out there, or you're confused about anything to do with like the metadata or the royalties, or how certain cameras work, or the boring stuff.
Well, I actually had a really boring one for you on that level. Like, what's your kind of like tech stack for running that side of stuff for the band? So I'm literally talking like, which web services are using, which distributors, which graphics programs are you using? We don't need to go too deep into them, but do you have like a basic, pool of things that you're using day to day, even down to like your email software? I hate to say it.
Yeah. I can do my best. Since the very beginning, we've been with AWOL, which is like I think an American company first, tied to Cobalt Publishing, which then has just been bought by Sony, annoyingly for some of us.
Yeah.
And they have the same tools as every single distributor, and the whole game is how many of those tools can you get them to use? Like, can you get them to actually do what they say they'll do? And there's some great people there, and the head of A&R there, we have a direct contact with. So that means that you can actually get your music out there, and through these massive corporations to a certain degree. I think probably if you're with DistroKid or something like that, there's a limit to their bandwidth, right? If they've got 20,000 tracks coming out that week, there's no way they can service them all to editorial support. Like, it's just not possible. So my feeling is the smaller distributor, the better, unless you can get a big distributor which you are more of a priority with. The way that works is we literally deliver our WAVs to them, and they send them to DSPs, and then they also pitch editorially on our behalf. But we also pitch ourselves through Spotify for Artists, and Amazon. Now you can now pitch directly. I think Deezer you can probably pitch directly, but they don't really operate in the markets we're in at the moment. Then in terms of the other stuff, we use a website called Soundcharts, which like gives you all the data in terms of playlisting and radio play, and like the metrics around like how your following is growing. That costs loads of money per month, but you can just sign up for free trials, and we create a new email address every month and sign up for free trials. Because it's just like, there's no way it would cost you like $600 a year.
Right.
And it's just so silly. I think it's made for labels that have like 30 artists or something, and that's not so bad. Yeah. So we just make new Gmail addresses up and log in with that.
That's wild. And can you see literally everyone's data? So you just go and see your own, or you don't have to like.
Oh yeah,
wow.
you can choose up to 10 artists. So okay. Like I could go and have a look at 10 other artists' data, which is quite funny.
Interesting.
And but also not good for you. Like as a musician, that's not good, because the chances are they're doing better than you. Then we use MailChimp for our mailing list stuff. I'm sure there's better people to use like that than that, but there's an easy integration to our website, which is built on Squarespace, because why not? And then we use a company called Music Glue for our store. The reason we use Music Glue is because they do chart reporting, which was really important for us on our first try and get into the charts. And if you just do the fulfillment and the selling yourself, for obvious reasons, they think that that's like open to misinterpretation and fraud. So they won't accept that. Official charts won't accept that.
Because that was like, I remember hearing about like you guys got your album to chart, and that was kind of like quite a big deal. Yeah, it was a major win for us, and that sort of happens by like some sort of like careful marketing strategies of like bundles. And then, once at the beginning of the week, generally speaking, if you're in with a chance, because you can see the long list. Then if you're in with a chance, you can start a narrative around that, and that will galvanize people to get involved, hopefully. And then, everyone loves an underdog to a certain extent, so hopefully you can get some more support. And it got to number 2 in the iTunes charts, which was hilarious. Amazing. Like, we were absolutely thrashing everyone. And who uses iTunes? But we realized, look, no one uses iTunes, so we can probably climb pretty high up on iTunes. Amazing. So is that like, when you talk about like galvanizing people, is that like you're just posting on your socials and stuff like, hey, it looks like our chart's here, like it's out, come on, let's fucking do this kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. Look, the hardest thing in the world is to keep telling your mates, go and buy my music. That's like so difficult, and it's really hard not to be like too proud to do that. But if there's some sort of indication that there is a bandwagon that they can jump on, then that makes everyone feel a bit better. Like, please buy my random tune. I'm a random artist from over here. You've never heard my music and no one else apparently likes it. Is like a pretty hard sell. But being able to say to like a friend of yours, which isn't part of the music industry, I got on this Spotify playlist, even if it's a tiny Spotify playlist and like it's not going to give you very many streams. For that person, that's like a really important bit of like accreditation, which lends you legitimacy. And it's like, oh, okay, great. Like getting played on, for example, if we get played on Radio 1 in the UK, I'd honestly say it makes no difference to our fan base. Like, we don't even gain one single fan.
Wow.
Like, to get fans from radio, you need to be played like 20 times a day. But you're talking even to like your family and saying, I got played on Radio 1, they're like, wow. Okay, that means something to other people. And it's not just always about, can you convert people into fans? It might also be about, does that lend your artistry some legitimacy, essentially? And that's like a reason, for example, to pay for PR, because, this is counter to what I was saying earlier, that like a nod from a blog does give you some legitimacy. But all I'd say is that if you have places where you're going to spend your money, that is the last place I would spend it.
Okay, that's a fascinating answer, man. I really appreciate that. We have another one from Zach, actually. Zach, you might need to clarify this one a little bit. He's saying, how has created your own label affected things? And did you just come up with the name and run with it?
The name is the name of a song that almost made it onto the first album. But like on the first album, we had 2 sort of records. One was going to be this kind of LCD Talking Heads inspired record. And the other one, which it ended up being, was like was a bit more esoteric and like went like this a bit more in terms of its energy. But we loved the song Emotional Interference, and one day maybe it'll come out, but we just decided let's use the name for our label. In terms of like creating a label, like what does it actually entail? It's you're running the marketing campaign. That's what a label does. They market a record. Nowadays, even if you're with a label, you still have to pay to get it made yourself, unless you're with a major label. And then it's you have to look after getting all the physical stuff manufactured and cut and the right orders.
Nice. Okay, and then so yeah, Zach's asking, like, is it worth making your own label? Zach, I'm guessing, do you mean own label as opposed to just putting yourself stuff up on a distributor? But effectively, Felix, you're saying it's the same. Anyway, it's just how far you want to push it.
Same thing.
Right.
When you all it is codifying it, and it sounds better and it looks better, and maybe one day we'll release other people's music through it. Like we've already released like all these remixes and stuff through that label. It's just something that's like recognizable and you can build on, because like if your label name is Low Island Music, there's no story there, and it's not interesting to the people inside it, let alone anyone researching the band or the project.
Cool, great. And Paul,
one thing I was going to just add to that is like the difference between being your own label and being signed to a label is that everything is just much, much, much faster. Like, even if you're signed to like a decent indie, you might have to wait 2 weeks for like a meeting with the person you want to talk to. We could literally, talk on WhatsApp and action a marketing plan at the end of the day, or hire someone straight away, or pay someone straight away. And like at our level, that's just so much easier and so much faster.
So it gives you kind of like a nimbleness and yeah, great. And I guess probably like you don't have to burn a lot of headspace worrying about chasing people and wondering what the hell's going on, and that control must be really helpful as well.
Yeah, and look, if we gave away 50% of our income to a record label, we wouldn't be able to survive. Like, there's just no way that mass adds up. And then look, if we had a manager as well, then we'd be giving 20% of our 50% away, or 15% of our 50% away as well. And then like what's left to provide for the campaign and to no one in the band even takes any money yet themselves. Like everything goes back in. We take the publishing ourselves as like, our paychecks.
Mm-hmm. Great. Awesome. Okay, so Paul is asking, sorry if this has already been asked, but are you guys like streaming practices or shows via Patreon or Bandcamp or any of those other kind of monetizing streaming things?
No, my feeling is that is all over. And look, Live Nation spent millions and millions on buying streaming infrastructure for shows. But like, unless you're going to do a boiler room set, I don't think anyone is tuning in to watch a band perform live on Bandcamp. And unless you have an enormous audience, it's just not worth the time. I reckon that if we knew how to use Twitch and we tapped into the right community, there would be an audience there for us. But like the Bandcamp streaming thing is not a platform built for discovery of people's live streams. I don't think that's a good use of our time, certainly.
Sure, good answer. Zach has a classic question, Zach. What's the key to building fans?
Storytelling, which is a horrible answer to give because it's not exact at all. But the problem that we face now is that there's 1,000 different platforms. Each different platform has a different audience, and they won't talk to each other. So, I can see, for example, that we have, let's say, 5,000 monthly listeners in Birmingham on Spotify, which is a city in the Midlands in the UK. And for me to get them to come to a show is next to impossible. I can't get hold of them. I can't advertise to them. All I can do is write on our Spotify page that we have a show in Birmingham, but who's going onto those pages and looking at the information? So that's really hard to move fans from one place to another. You have to basically pick a platform that you're most comfortable using and build your audience on that. For us, it's Instagram. Like, we like the fact that it's a visual medium, and it doesn't seem like it feels like it's for our generation. Facebook probably for us is for a generation that's a little bit older. Twitch is for a generation that's like, I don't know, Twitch isn't necessarily for a generation. It's for like people who are like really interested in the specific topics, I feel like. And like, I'm not sure Low Island is a specific topic. Like, we talk about such a range of things, it might be really difficult for us. TikTok is for people who are a bit younger, but like, we're trying to do it because we're aware that it's now, you know, it's certainly marketing itself as the #1 music discovery platform. I'm sure that in the next few years it will become a streaming service as well. And you know, then you have your DSPs, which are like Spotify's trying to become a social media platform, but is it really? But there are ways of tying it all together. Artwork and videos are a way to do it, like definitely a way to do it. Like that's storytelling. Your artwork is storytelling. Your music to a certain extent is storytelling, but you have to explain it. Like, you can't expect people to understand anymore. It used to be the case that you would do an interview with a publication and they would explain it then. And now you're your own interviewer and you like post your own explanation online of everything, which is like pretty weird. It's like, let me interview myself and tell you things that you didn't ask to hear in the hope that you might be interested.
Right.
But, you know, you can try different things, and whatever gets the best results, just keep doing more stuff like that, I'd say.
What's being...
Like, if people are really into you streaming DJ sets, do that. If people are like much more into like some trippy visualizer stuff, do that. If people actually like reading little essays or poems that you've written about your music, do that. Like, there's a multitude of ways to connect with other people. I don't think that we've nailed it at all, by the way.
I was going to ask if you've experimented with stuff, and like, have you found the stuff that gets the most traction or the most response so far?
Anytime you ask a question of people, not in a way which is like, tell us what you think, although sometimes we do that because we're being lazy. I think you need to ask something that genuinely is debatable. Then you'll get a response from people. And then there's like simple things to do with marketing, which are like, make your shit brighter and more colorful than everyone else's. Then you'll win.
Yeah.
It's like the loudness war, but in visual.
That's a really good point. And when you're thinking about like the story side of things, do you yourself feel kind of keyed into like what the story is of the band and what that story is that you're communicating? I mean, you like very naturally, obviously, you've shared a lot of stuff that's like important to you on here. Like, you like fucking playing live, you like playing as a band, you don't like doing this, and you know, is it stuff like that, or do you have, you know, you're talking as well about when you got the record charted, you had a really clear narrative there. But are there, you know, other ways that manifests itself, or is it even like with the visual identity, is that kind of like storytelling in a more abstract sense of the word?
Yeah, I would say before we started managing ourselves and set up our own label, I had no clear idea, and I don't think anyone else in the band did, what the like narrative of the group was, what the story of the group was. I think the idea of us being somewhat an anomaly, of being like independent and self-managed at our sort of nominal level, gave us a story which we leaned into because it was like it was the reality of our situation. But you know, we don't have like a sob story, and it's really hard to tell a story of 4 people because it's 4 different stories. So how do you tell the story of like a collective group? It has to be something that applies to everyone, or unless you're a solo artist. So for us, it just became, you know, these are the things we like doing. We do this ourselves. This is the artwork we like. Carlos is sharing stuff he's reading, he's sharing stuff about the music he's writing. Jamie's talking about production elements. Jacob is like, really intrinsic to all these live videos and performing live, and how that all comes across. Hopefully we sort of tie it together into something. The narrative does not have to be like, I grew up on a council estate and I busked for 7 years and then someone discovered me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that doesn't have to be the narrative. And also remember that, like, there are these different levels of narrative. We struggle in the UK because, like, what's exceptional about an all-white cis male group from the UK in the UK, right? That's not exceptional or interesting, nor should it be. But at least in Germany, their reference for an English indie band is like, oh, okay, it's sometimes unhelpful. I like Kaiser Chiefs or the Beatles. Like you go in this lineage of a band from the UK,
right? And
that'll actually carry you pretty far.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to have more precise narrative in your home turf for people, for people who are engaged at a deeper level. Exactly what I was saying about when you're really into a topic, you're looking at much more precise rules and details to decipher and to understand the project that you're following, or the like world that you're following. Like Fortet, a very simple idea of performing under a lamp,
mm-hmm.
like that will carry you a long way. Like, what is that? That's like someone who makes music in their bedroom. That's someone who tries to recreate that same atmosphere late night in your bedroom under a desk lamp in a large room. It's one guy, he shares records that he likes. He doesn't make any hard sells. He tries to make it as affordable as possible for people to come to his shows. He doesn't have any overheads. His shows can be affordable because there's no production involved. All he has to do is pay for a desk lamp and a sound system.
Amazing.
Like, you can find things in your own story which will tell you what to do next. Like, it's not like endless choices and I have all the choices in the world. This is a path, and that should inform the next decisions we make. Like, don't make a symphony orchestra album if you're one person. Like, make an album that sounds like one person investigating all the things that they like and they can do themselves.
So is there like it's almost, I find this thing when I'm producing people, sometimes it's hardest to get them to see what's unique about themselves because they're like live with it every day, or might feel like I need to like dress something up or do something else. And it's like, just, it's almost like the totally being yourself thing is what can be most effective.
Yeah, when you produce someone, they're bored of all their own music and their own tricks. They're bored of their own voice and they're bored of their own skills.
Yeah.
And it's like, hang on, no, that's the thing that you're really good at.
That actually, sorry, Felix, that ties into a question that I missed earlier on from Matt Stone Art Live, who was just asking, like, when you made an album, you played a song a ton of times, how do you deal with feeling bored with the song itself?
When you're playing live, it's not about the song that you're playing. Like, it's really not. It's about the room and the crowd. Like, I'm not even really thinking about the music at all. Like, I'm sort of just like, this is fucking awesome. Who gives a fuck about the song? Like, this is just an excuse for us to do this. And I don't know, like, you get something wrong every show, don't you? There's no way you get it right every time. Like, I've done, like, as a session musician, I've done like the Broadway shows in the UK, and you never get 100% right, and you have to do it hundreds of times. So there's like a little challenge for yourself every time. Okay, tonight I'm going to try and get it 100% right. Oh no, I cocked up again. Tomorrow night, there's always something to get better at. And like, you can talk more to Jamie about this, but like, it's a balancing act between we're a group that revolves a lot around programmed stuff and sequenced elements in the music. So you've got to be running some form of tempo. We're running click, but we'll also have like markers in the songs which allow us, to open out certain sections if people feel like it. And also those are danger moments. Like the cues out of those are massive moments where we can cock up. So that keeps it, fresh, I think.
I love it. That's super dope. Well, listen, does anyone have any other questions? Again, we've covered so much. We mentioned Jamie's coming on Friday. For anyone who doesn't know at this point, the context that we've been able to have you as a guest on here for is we're running a remix competition for your guys' single Everything Before Us. You can go to Complete Producer Network, everyone. There's a huge thread on there with links to all the stems. 1 week from today is when we're having a big-ass listening party. And actually, Felix, would you mind strategizing about this just while we're here live? We're beaming people in via Skype.
Cool.
Are we going to try to, do we get all of you together in one room, or do we try to set up like a multi-camera, multi-different room thing, which would be very complex and have a lot of chance to go wrong, but apparently the tech is out there?
Well, Jacob will actually be in California then.
Okay.
So, I don't know what his situation will be. Jamie and Carlos live next door to each other, so they can go to the same place.
Uh-huh.
I'm about 50 miles away from them.
Oh, wow.
So we'll need 2 screens, I'd say.
Will.
Unless
Okay.
Jacob can find a way of tuning in from the desert.
Okay, cool. Well, let me see what I can do, because we're the stream is currently set up for one feed off Skype, but we'll see what we can figure out. I have been.
Yeah, and look, also worst comes to worst, Jamie and Carlos can be on there, and I'll just heckle everyone from the chat.
Oh, okay, yeah. We'll figure something out. I'll see if I can knock something together in an evening, because people have been telling me for like a year or so that there's this whole thing. That's really good, and I've been just avoiding it, spending the energy on cubes in different areas, as it were. But anyway, so Everything Before Us, the whole remix competition is there. As a representative of the band, could you let people know what the grand prize is for the remix contest as well?
Well, there's a multitude of prizes connected with different plugins from Baby Audio, and then the grand prize is that we'll release it on our label, Emotional Interference, and we'll give it the biggest push we can give. We'll try and pitch it as far as we can. And that will come out after our EP, so it'll have its own release, probably in late April. And then you'll also get 50% of the publishing. And if you don't know how to be set up to collect those royalties, I can help you get set up. So, eventually after years, you might get paid something because that's how long it takes to get paid. Hopefully it'll be something that kicks off, and we'll certainly play it out when Jamie DJs and stuff like that.
Amazing. Great. So again, everyone, just jump over onto completeproducer.net. You guys are posting about it on the Low Island Instagram feed. Everyone can find you at Low Island Music. Is that right?
Yep. Low Island Music pretty much everywhere. I've seen like a few of them pop up, and it's all like everyone's has been completely different from each other, which is super cool. And it all sounding like pretty slammed, which is definitely a good thing for us.
Great, yeah. So we're gonna need some snacks. So listen, I really 100% want to say, everyone, watch this again, because Felix, you're sharing so much information. I've seen people asking questions that you actually went into great detail and explained a number of times. So definitely rewind this one. And we have got your good buddy, Jamie is coming in on Friday. So we'll get to go similarly deep with him about producing the band, about all the kind of making your live shows work, all that good stuff. And then Wednesday next week, like we're saying, everyone, bring drinks, bring snacks. It's gonna be a long one, I think. How many downloads are we at on the stems? I think
there's almost 100 downloads. So.
Almost 100 downloads, yeah. So if everyone makes a remix, then this might be one of the longest Twitch streams of all time, because we are literally gonna listen to all of them. We might have to fade a few of them out if they go on a bit too long. But yeah, we're in for the long haul. Felix, what do you think? We might need to actually look at moving the start time of the stream earlier a little bit, so you're not still listening at 3 a.m. or something like that.
Can't we just bump up the tempos of all the
Exactly, yeah. Well, oh my God, we'll play them all on 45. All right, awesome. So listen, we're getting a ton of great comments in here. People really appreciate your time, Felix. I really deeply appreciate just how open you've been with all this. Like, I found it fascinating. And, you know,
Generally speaking, if people have questions, like, we're pretty open. You can just like DM us or whatever, and like eventually we get back to everyone. So
cool. And then also you are actually on Complete Producer Network as well now, Felix. So people can also at you in there if we have like some big threads, or you might see me paging you on a couple of topics. Sometimes when someone asks something, I'll be like, you know, who we need in on this is this person here. You mentioned before you jumped on that you also are set up to remote record drums. So how do people contact you for that?
Yeah, you can just reach out. My website will be easy to find, and I'm easy to find on Instagram as well. You know, just type in my name, you'll find me straight away. Yeah, I like do a lot, you know, increasingly more and more of that work because people's budgets are getting smaller, and the studios are shutting. And like the sort of music that people make now, no one really wants like a big roomy drum sound. Everyone wants a tight 70s thing, which is super achievable by yourself.
Great. And you're obviously like ridiculous. I mean, you're an amazingly trained musician. You've played in every possible situation, but you also like know how to rock it to programming, to live tracks, how to lock in with a track and everything. So cool. Great. Okay, man. Just a small note. I got to say, when we were doing Feel Young Again, like, I love the groove on that track so much, and I was kind of blown away when I soloed your drums, how like simple your feel was, and but it was like the way it bounced off like all the other elements made me think like, oh, this is like hella complex. So just wanted to say like huge props for being able to build like the many armed machine on that one.
Thanks. I mean, it's worth saying that like I play drums and I record them, and then everyone else says no and yes. Like everyone produces in the room. Like people, it goes through everyone. But I'll still take credit. Thank you. No, the thing I was going to say is that like this. I think there's like two ways of building grooves in music. One is all the syncopation comes from your other instruments. So if you think about like funk tunes or anything basically with a Linn drum from the 80s. The drums are super square, like it's just like the 1-3 in the backbeat and big emphasis on the 1, and then everything else is playing all the syncopation in between. And then the other thing happened when we got to the 90s and we got breakbeats and we got jungle and we got drum and bass, is that actually it was like breaks instead, so super complicated drums and then like pretty non-rhythmic synths on top. So if you want to make music in one genre, you do it one way, and if you want music in another genre, you make it another way. I sort of feel like that's how it works. Like if you have a really funky guitar riff, you need a very simple drum beat that just like tells you where that guitar riff pulls and releases, and the other way around is true as well. I think if everything is complicated, like you end up in like fusion, basically.
Amazing. Oh, dude. Okay, well, that's like a mic drop moment as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, Felix, thanks so much for hanging out. We'll keep chatting. We'll look forward to hang out with you on Wednesday next week. You can come in and troll Jamie on Friday. Make another account and ask him all the difficult questions or something like that.
Okay.
Could be a vibe. Cool. All right, and everyone, just please do like if you can do some tags, drop some posts about everything that's going on with Low Island. Let's really want to thank them for making all this available for us and partnering with us on this whole process. So yeah, dude, thanks again.
Of course, it's lovely to be part of this awesome community, and thanks everyone for your questions, and nice to sort of meet you over the internet.
Awesome. All right, dude. Well, we'll see you next time. I'm going to press a hang up on here, Felix, and I'm going to say bye to everyone on the stream. Hey, we hope you enjoyed that video. A couple of more links here for some talks we think you'll like. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and otherwise head over to completeproducer.net so that you can connect with other music making geniuses from all over the world. We'll see you there.